The Awakening. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where stars twinkled like distant memories, a formidable species known as the Kamsu thrived. With their towering frames, 6 limbs, and an aggressive disposition, they were a force to be reckoned with. Their society was built upon conquest, driven by an insatiable hunger for expansion. However, unbeknownst to them, a new player had quietly emerged in a remote corner of space: humanity. The Kamsu had long considered themselves the apex predators among sentient beings. Their homeworld was a harsh environment where only the strongest survived. They had developed advanced technology, allowing them to traverse the stars, seeking out resources and territories to exploit. Yet, despite their prowess, they had never encountered another intelligent species capable of challenging their dominion. Until now. In a distant system, humans had begun to establish colonies. These settlements were modest at first, mere outposts in an unremarkable sector of space, but they represented something significant: a burgeoning civilization that had reached out into the cosmos. Humans were not aware that their expansion would soon draw the attention of an ancient predator. One fateful day, while conducting reconnaissance on a newly identified planet rich in resources, a Kamsu armed reconnaissance team stumbled upon one such human settlement. The team was led by Commander Zalfar, who was renowned for his ruthlessness in eliminating perceived threats. As they approached the settlement, Zalfar's instincts kicked in. He saw structures where none were supposed to exist and immediately ordered an attack. The humans living there were caught off guard. They had no idea that they were being watched by an alien species intent on destruction. As flames erupted from Kamsu weapons, chaos ensued. Buildings crumbled under assault. Screams echoed through the air as families fled for their lives. Zalfar reveled in the destruction, his mind clouded by years of indoctrination that taught him might was right. However, this time would be different. Among those fleeing was a young man named Ethan Carter, a skilled engineer who had joined this colony to escape his war-torn home on Earth. He had always been fascinated by technology and dreamed of building a better future for his family. As he watched his home burn, something ignited within him, a primal instinct to fight back against this monstrous foe. Ethan quickly gathered his family and led them toward safety while formulating a plan in his mind. He knew they couldn't rely solely on escape. They needed to defend themselves against this alien menace. Utilizing his engineering skills, he began to craft makeshift weapons from whatever materials he could find: metal scraps, old machinery parts, anything that could be turned into a tool for survival. Meanwhile, Zalfar's team continued their rampage through the settlement with little regard for life or consequence. They were methodical in their destruction until Zalfar spotted movement, a vehicle attempting to escape. He ordered his team to pursue it relentlessly. As they closed in on their target, Ethan's heart raced with fear and determination. He knew that if he didn't act quickly, his family would be lost forever. Just as Zalfar prepared to fire upon them with his arm-mounted flamer, Ethan made a desperate decision. He activated an improvised EMP device he had constructed earlier, a last-ditch effort to disrupt their attackers' technology. The sudden surge of energy caused Zalfar's weapon systems to malfunction momentarily. In that brief window of opportunity, Ethan leaped into action with surprising agility for someone who had spent most of his life working with machines rather than engaging in combat. He dashed toward Zalfar with a kinetic pistol clutched tightly in his hands, a weapon designed for precision rather than brute force. In one fluid motion, he aimed at Zalfar's exposed arm and fired just as Zalfar regained control over his weapon systems. The bullet struck true. Zalfar let out an agonized screech as he felt pain for the first time in ages, a sensation foreign to him amidst his conquests. In shock and fury, he turned toward Ethan, but found himself disarmed as Ethan lunged forward with surprising speed. In that moment of chaos, it became clear that humanity was not as defenseless as it seemed. Ethan's actions sparked something unexpected within Zalfar. Fear mingled with confusion as he realized he was facing not just another creature, but an intelligent being capable of strategy and cunning, qualities he had underestimated entirely. As Ethan stood poised for another attack against this towering alien figure, he felt adrenaline coursing through his veins, the thrill of survival igniting an instinctual drive within him that had lain dormant until now. This encounter marked not only a pivotal moment for Ethan, but also set off ripples across both species, an awakening that would shape their destinies forevermore. The battle was far from over. It had only just begun. As more humans rallied around Ethan's defiance against their aggressors, it became evident that humanity's spirit could not be easily extinguished, even when faced with overwhelming odds. And so began a conflict that would challenge everything both species believed about themselves and each other. A lethal force unleashed upon an unsuspecting galaxy where survival would hinge on adaptability and resilience against all odds. The Clash of Titans. The aftermath of the initial encounter between the Kut-Kamsu and humanity reverberated across the galaxy like a shockwave. As the Kut-Kamsu retreated, nursing their wounds and bruised egos, the human settlers began to realize that they were no longer alone in the universe. The battle had ignited a fire within them, a fierce determination to defend their newfound home and assert their place among the stars. Rallying the forces. In the wake of destruction, Ethan Carter emerged as an unexpected leader. His actions during the attack had inspired others in the colony, and soon, a group of survivors began to gather around him. They were engineers, farmers, and soldiers, people from all walks of life who had one common goal: to prepare for the inevitable return of the Kut-Kamsu. Ethan convened a meeting in what remained of the colony's community center. The atmosphere was tense. Fear hung in the air like a thick fog. As he looked around at the faces of his friends and neighbors, he felt a surge of resolve. "We can't let them destroy us again," he declared. "We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for whatever comes next." The group quickly got to work. They salvaged materials from the ruins of their homes, repurposing debris into barricades and makeshift weaponry. Ethan's engineering skills came into play as he designed traps and defensive structures, drawing inspiration from ancient warfare tactics he had studied in books back on Earth. Meanwhile, news of the attack spread through human space like wildfire. Other colonies began to mobilize, sending scouts and reinforcements to assist in fortifying defenses against potential Kut-Kamsu incursions. Humanity was awakening to its potential as a unified force, ready to confront any threat that dared challenge them. The return of the Kut-Kamsu. Back in Kut-Kamsu territory, Commander Xalfar's failure weighed heavily on his mind. He had returned to his homeworld with only a fraction of his team, humiliated by a species he had underestimated. The Kut-Kamsu leadership was furious. They demanded answers for this unprecedented defeat. Xalfar stood before the Council of Elders, his towering figure dwarfed by their imposing presence. "They are not what we expected," he admitted reluctantly. "Humans possess cunning and speed beyond our understanding. They fought back with tactics we have never encountered before." The elders listened intently, their antennae twitching with curiosity and concern. "We cannot allow this affront to go unanswered," one elder proclaimed. "We must send a larger force to eliminate this threat before it grows." Xalfar nodded, knowing that failure was not an option this time. He would lead a new assault, a full-scale invasion designed to crush human resistance once and for all. Preparing for war. As preparations for war began on both sides, Ethan and his team worked tirelessly to improve their defenses. They constructed watchtowers and fortified barricades, while training new recruits in basic combat techniques. The community came together as never before. Everyone understood that survival depended on unity. Ethan organized drills where they practiced responding to various attack scenarios. He taught them how to use their improvised weapons effectively: kinetic pistols, makeshift explosives, and even melee weapons crafted from scavenged materials. Each day brought new challenges, but with each challenge came growth. They were becoming more than just survivors. They were becoming warriors. One evening, as they gathered around a makeshift campfire after a long day of training, Ethan shared stories of humanity's past conflicts, of battles won and lost throughout history. "We've faced adversity before," he said passionately. "We've fought against impossible odds and emerged stronger each time. This is just another chapter in our story." His words resonated deeply with those around him. They felt emboldened by his conviction and inspired by tales of resilience from their ancestors. The first skirmish. Weeks passed as tensions mounted between humans and Kuk-Kamsu forces. Finally, the day arrived when Zalthar led his fleet back toward human territory, a massive armada bristling with weapons and intent on annihilation. As they approached the planet where Ithan's colony lay hidden among dense forests and mountains, Zalthar felt a surge of confidence wash over him. This time, victory would be theirs. Unbeknownst to him, Ethan had anticipated their arrival. Utilizing scouts equipped with advanced surveillance technology salvaged from the wreckage of their previous encounter, they monitored Kuk-Kamsu movements closely. "Commander, they're approaching," one scout reported breathlessly as he rushed into Ethan's command tent. Ethan's heart raced at the news but steeled himself for action. "Prepare everyone. We need to be ready for anything," he commanded. As night fell over the landscape, darkness enveloped both forces. Kuk-Kamsu ships hovering ominously above, while humans took position behind their makeshift defenses below. The first shots rang out just after dawn broke over the horizon, a blinding flash illuminating the sky as Kuk-Kamsu weaponry unleashed destruction upon human positions. Ethan rallied his troops in response. They fired back with everything they had, kinetic pistols crackling in defiance against alien firepower. The air was filled with chaos. Explosions echoed through valleys, while shouts pierced through smoke-filled skies. A battle like no other. What unfolded was a fierce clash between two very different species, one driven by instinctual aggression, and another fueled by ingenuity born from desperation. Ethan fought alongside his comrades, dodging blasts while returning fire with precision honed through countless drills. He felt alive amidst the chaos. This was what he had trained for. As waves of Kuk-Kamsu soldiers descended upon their positions like an unstoppable tide, Ethan's team held firm against overwhelming odds. Each member fighting not just for survival, but also for one another. The battle raged on for hours. It became clear that neither side would easily yield ground. Zalthar's forces pressed forward relentlessly, while human defenders adapted quickly, using guerrilla tactics learned from centuries of warfare on Earth. But soon enough, it became evident that sheer numbers alone could not guarantee victory for either side. Turning point. In a decisive moment during the skirmish, Ethan spotted an opportunity. A small group of Kuk-Kamsu soldiers had broken away from their main force and were attempting to flank his position. "Follow me," he shouted as he led a charge toward them with renewed fervor, a surge fueled by adrenaline coursing through his veins. They engaged fiercely with those alien warriors, despite being outnumbered again. This time it felt different. Their determination ignited something within them that transcended mere survival instinct. It was hope. With every strike they landed against their foes came renewed strength, a belief that perhaps they could turn this tide after all if only they remained united. As dusk settled over battle-scarred fields littered with debris from both sides' relentless assault, a glimmering realization dawned upon Ethan. Humanity was capable not just of surviving, but thriving even when faced with insurmountable odds. And thus began an era where humans would no longer cower before aggressors. Instead, they would rise up fiercely defending what belonged to them, proving once again that even against overwhelming forces, the spirit of humanity could never be extinguished. The aftermath. In the wake of the brutal clash between the Kuk-Kamsu and humanity, a tense silence enveloped the battlefield. The air was thick with smoke and the acrid scent of burnt metal and scorched earth. As the last echoes of gunfire faded, both sides were left to grapple with the consequences of their actions. What had begun as an unprovoked attack had spiraled into a conflict that neither species could ignore. Humanity's resolve. Ethan Carter and his fellow survivors surveyed the destruction around them. The colony, once a thriving community, now lay in ruins. Yet amidst the wreckage, there was a palpable sense of determination. They had faced an enemy unlike any they had encountered before and had emerged not only alive but emboldened. "Gather everyone," Ethan called out, his voice cutting through the haze of despair. "We need to regroup and plan our next steps." As they gathered in what remained of the community center, Ethan took stock of his people. They were bruised but unbroken, their spirits ignited by the knowledge that they had stood against a formidable foe and survived. "We've proven that we can fight back," he began, his tone resolute. "But we must prepare for what's coming next. The Kamsu will return, and we need to be ready." The room buzzed with energy as ideas flowed freely. Some proposed fortifying their defenses further, while others suggested reaching out to nearby colonies for assistance. Ethan listened intently, recognizing that unity would be their greatest strength. "We can't just focus on defense," he interjected. "We need to understand our enemy better. We must gather intelligence on the Kamsu, learn their tactics, their technology. Only then can we truly prepare for their next move." The Kamsu's retreat. Meanwhile, back in Kamsu space, Commander Xalthar returned to his homeworld in disgrace. The elders awaited him with stern expressions, their antennae twitching in agitation. "You have failed us," one elder pronounced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Xalthar bowed his head in acknowledgement. "They fought back with unexpected ferocity," he replied, struggling to maintain his composure. "We underestimated them." The elders exchanged glances, their displeasure evident. "This is no ordinary species," another elder stated gravely. "They possess intelligence and adaptability that we have not encountered before." Xalthar felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was not merely a failure but an opportunity for growth. "If we can learn from this encounter," he proposed cautiously, "we might find a way to defeat them in future engagements." "Your suggestion is noted," the elder replied curtly. "But we must first assess our losses and regroup before considering further action." A call for unity. As days turned into weeks, humanity began to rally around Ethan's leadership. News of their victory spread throughout nearby colonies, igniting a sense of solidarity among humans across the sector. They were no longer isolated settlements. They were part of something larger, a burgeoning alliance determined to stand against any threat. Ethan reached out to other colonies via subspace communication channels, sharing accounts of their battle and urging them to prepare for potential Kamsu incursions. Many responded positively. They too had faced skirmishes with alien forces or had heard tales of the Kamsu's aggression. A summit was quickly organized among human factions, an unprecedented gathering aimed at forming a united front against their common enemy. At the summit, representatives from various colonies gathered in a makeshift conference room aboard a transport ship retrofitted for interstellar travel. Tensions ran high as differing agendas clashed. Some factions sought revenge, while others emphasized diplomacy. Ethan stood at the forefront, advocating for cooperation over conflict. "We must put aside our differences," he urged passionately. "The Kamsu are not just another enemy. They are a threat to our very existence. If we do not unite now, we risk losing everything we've built." His words resonated deeply with many present. Slowly but surely, consensus began to form around the idea of collaboration. The new alliance. With renewed purpose, representatives from various factions signed an agreement establishing the Coalition of Human Colonies, CHC. This coalition would serve as a unified body dedicated to defense against external threats, specifically targeting the Kamsu. Ethan was appointed as one of its leaders due to his experience during the initial encounter and his ability to inspire others. He felt both honored and overwhelmed by the responsibility placed upon him. As plans for fortification and intelligence gathering took shape within the coalition's framework, Ethan turned his attention toward understanding Kamsu technology, their ships, weapon systems, and tactics. He assembled a team of engineers and scientists who began analyzing every scrap of data collected from battle footage and salvaged equipment left behind after skirmishes with Kuk Kamsu forces. The intelligence-gathering mission. One evening during a strategy session, Ethan proposed an audacious plan. "We need to send a reconnaissance team into Kuk Kamsu territory," he stated firmly. Gasps filled the room. Sending humans into enemy territory was fraught with danger, but Ethan continued undeterred. "If we can gather first-hand intelligence on their operations and technology, we'll have an advantage when they return." After much debate among coalition members, some fearing it was too risky, while others recognized its potential value, a small team was eventually selected for this perilous mission. Ethan chose experienced scouts who had previously operated behind enemy lines during conflicts on Earth, individuals skilled in stealth tactics and survival strategies. Into enemy territory. Under cover of darkness, the reconnaissance team launched from one of CHC's fortified bases aboard an unmarked stealth ship designed for deep space infiltration missions. As they approached Kuk Kamsu space, a region marked by swirling nebula and distant stars, the tension on board was palpable. Each member understood that failure could mean certain death if discovered by their enemies. Navigating through asteroid fields and avoiding detection by patrols required precision. Every decision weighed heavily on Ethan's shoulders as he led them deeper into hostile territory. Finally reaching an uninhabited moon orbiting a Kuk Kamsu outpost, where they suspected military operations were underway, the team disembarked quietly under cover of nightfall. Using advanced surveillance equipment salvaged from previous encounters with Kuk Kamsu forces, they began gathering data on troop movements and ship designs while remaining vigilant against detection. A dangerous discovery. As hours turned into days spent observing from hidden positions among craggy rocks and dense foliage, the team made startling discoveries about Kuk Kamsu operations. Military structure. They noted how Kuk Kamsu units operated in coordinated formations, each squadron possessing specific roles within larger military strategies. Technology. The team recorded details about Kuk Kamsu weaponry, powerful flamers capable of devastating destruction, but also noted vulnerabilities in their armor. Communication. They intercepted communications revealing internal discussions among Kuk Kamsu leaders about future offensives against human colonies, a clear indication that another attack was imminent. With each passing moment spent observing enemy activity came increasing anxiety. Time was running short before they would be discovered. Just as they prepared to leave with vital intelligence gathered, their worst fears materialized. A patrol unit stumbled upon their location. A race against time. Ethan's heart raced as alarms blared throughout their camp. Chaos erupted as he barked orders for immediate extraction, while adrenaline surged through him like fire. "Move! We need to get back to the ship," he shouted urgently as they sprinted toward their stealth vessel, dodging blasts from advancing Kuk Kamsu soldiers who had quickly mobilized upon detecting intruders. The team fought valiantly against overwhelming odds, using every ounce of training honed through countless drills back home. They held off pursuers long enough for most members to reach safety aboard their ship. But as Ethan turned back one last time, to ensure everyone made it on board, a fierce blast knocked him off balance, sending him sprawling across rocky terrain. Panic surged within him as he struggled back onto his feet, but there was no time. He sprinted toward safety just as another blast exploded nearby, sending debris flying through the air. With sheer determination propelling him forward, he dove into the ship's hatch just moments before it sealed shut behind him. Return with knowledge. As they escaped into deep space, the weight of what they'd accomplished settled heavily upon Ethan's shoulders. They had gathered invaluable intelligence that could change everything about humanity's approach toward this relentless enemy. Back at CHC headquarters, Ethan briefed coalition leaders on findings from their mission, while sharing footage captured during reconnaissance operations, revealing critical insights into how best to counteract future attacks from Kuk Kamsu forces. The atmosphere shifted dramatically within those walls. Fear transformed into resolve as strategies were developed based on newfound knowledge about enemy tactics. And so began another chapter in this ongoing saga, a relentless struggle between two species driven by survival instincts, each learning from one another, while forging paths toward inevitable confrontation once more. Diplomacy or destruction. As the dust settled from the fierce battles between the Kuk-Kamsu and humanity, both sides faced a pivotal moment. The Kuk-Kamsu, having suffered significant losses and bewildered by the unexpected resilience of the humans, began to reconsider their approach. Meanwhile, humanity, galvanized by their victories and the formation of the Coalition of Human Colonies, CHC, prepared for what they believed would be an inevitable second wave of attacks. The human perspective. Ethan Carter stood at the forefront of the CHC's command center, a makeshift facility constructed from the remnants of their previous settlements. The atmosphere was charged with urgency. Intelligence reports indicated that a Kuk-Kamsu fleet was assembling for another assault. However, Ethan sensed a shift in the air, an opportunity for dialogue instead of destruction. "We've proven we can defend ourselves," he began during a strategy meeting with coalition leaders. "But what if we could turn this conflict into something more? What if we reached out to them?" Skepticism filled the room. After everything they've done, they attacked us without provocation. One leader exclaimed, slamming his fist on the table. "They deserve no mercy." Ethan held up a hand to quell the rising tension. "I understand your anger, but think about it. The Kuk-Kamsu are not just mindless monsters. They are a sentient species, just like us. They may not fully understand our ways or our values. If we can find a way to communicate, we might prevent further bloodshed." His words hung in the air, met with mixed reactions. Some leaders nodded thoughtfully, while others remained resolute in their desire for vengeance. A message to the Kuk-Kamsu. Determined to act on his convictions, Ethan proposed sending a delegation to establish contact with the Kuk-Kamsu. His plan involved utilizing an unarmed shuttle equipped with communication devices designed to broadcast peaceful intentions. "Let's show them that we seek understanding rather than war," he urged. "If they respond aggressively, we'll be ready. But if there's even a chance for peace, we owe it to ourselves to try." After much deliberation, a small team was assembled. Ethan would lead it alongside several representatives from different factions within the coalition. They boarded the shuttle and set course for Kuk-Kamsu territory, hearts pounding with anticipation and trepidation. The Kuk-Kamsu response. Meanwhile, back on their home world, Zalfar and other Kuk-Kamsu leaders convened in an emergency council meeting. The losses they had suffered weighed heavily on them. Their once feared reputation had been tarnished by a species they had underestimated. Why do they not attack again? One elder questioned, his voice tinged with confusion. "They have every reason to finish what we started." Zalfar spoke up cautiously. "Perhaps they seek something more than vengeance. Our initial assault may have awakened something within them, a resolve to fight back." As if on cue, a communication signal interrupted their meeting. A message from Ethan's shuttle requesting an audience with Kuk-Kamsu leaders. The elders exchanged glances filled with skepticism and curiosity. "Shall we entertain this request?" One elder asked. "It may be our only chance to understand this enemy," Zalfar replied thoughtfully. "We must learn from our mistakes." The meeting of minds. The two parties met in a neutral zone, a barren moon orbiting a distant planet where neither side held territorial claims. The atmosphere was tense as Ethan and his team disembarked from their shuttle, greeted by Zalfar and other Kuk-Kamsu leaders. Ethan took a deep breath before stepping forward, his heart racing but his resolve unwavering. "We come in peace," he declared, raising his hands in a gesture of goodwill. "We wish to discuss our future and find common ground." Cultural exchange. Over several meetings that followed, both sides engaged in discussions about their respective cultures, sharing stories of triumphs and tragedies that shaped their societies. The Kuk-Kamsu explained their aggressive nature as a product of survival in a harsh environment, where only the strongest thrived. In turn, Ethan shared humanity's history, a tapestry woven with conflict, but also resilience and innovation born from adversity. He spoke passionately about human values, family, community, and the desire for peace despite their violent past. As days turned into weeks, an unexpected bond began to form between them, a mutual respect forged through understanding rather than animosity. A new threat emerges. Just as hope began to blossom between humans and Kamsu leaders, news arrived that threatened to unravel everything they had worked for. A new species had entered their sector, a ruthless race known as the Vortaxians. These beings were notorious for their brutal conquests across galaxies and showed no signs of stopping at either human or Kamsu territories. Ethan felt an urgent need to act. This new threat could destroy both species if they remained divided. "We must unite against this common enemy," he urged during an emergency meeting with Salfar and coalition leaders. Zalfar nodded gravely. He understood that survival hinged on cooperation now more than ever. Forging an alliance. With renewed purpose, humans and Kamsu joined forces to combat the Vortaxians. Together, they developed strategies that combined human ingenuity with Kamsu strength, a formidable alliance born from necessity rather than trust. As battles raged against Vortaxian forces across multiple fronts, both sides learned from each other's tactics, humans adapting quickly while Kamsu embraced innovative strategies previously foreign to them. Ethan found himself fighting alongside Salfar on numerous occasions, each battle forging deeper ties between them as they shared victories and losses alike. The final confrontation. The climax came during an epic battle at an asteroid belt where Vortaxian ships attempted to flank both species' forces simultaneously. Utilizing combined tactics honed over weeks of collaboration, their fleets maneuvered seamlessly through chaos as human ships darted around larger Kamsu vessels like nimble predators. In one decisive moment amidst swirling debris and laser fire, Ethan found himself face-to-face with Vortaxian commander aboard one of their ships, while Salthar led an assault against another flank nearby. "Your kind will fall before us," roared the Vortaxian commander as he raised his weapon threateningly toward Ethan. But instead of fear, Ethan felt empowerment surging within him. He had fought too hard alongside his allies to let fear dictate his actions now. "Not today," he shouted defiantly before launching himself at the commander, a blur of motion fueled by adrenaline. In that instant, a realization washed over him. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about unity against oppression, victory, and new beginnings. As victory rang out across both species' forces, the remnants of Vortaxian fleets scattered into oblivion. The Alliance stood tall amidst wreckage, celebrating newfound camaraderie forged through struggle. In the aftermath of battle, both humans and Kamsu gathered together under starlit skies, reflecting on what had transpired. A journey from conflict toward understanding culminating in triumph against tyranny. Ethan looked around at his allies, once enemies now united, and felt hope blossoming anew within him. Together, they could build something greater than either could alone. With renewed purpose, they began discussing plans for collaboration beyond mere survival, exploring trade routes between colonies while sharing knowledge about technology and culture alike. And so began an era where two species once destined for destruction found common ground amidst adversity, proving that even in darkness light could emerge when hearts opened wide enough.